Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's reading. We are in day 48 of reading the Bible chronologically. So let's get into today's reading. God establishes protocols for sacrificial systems. His instructions begin with the high priest, whose guilt affect the entire community. He then continues with the procedures for the whole Israelite community, then Israel leaders, and finally the common people. Sin requires a sacrifice. The offer the offerer lays hands on the unblemished animal, symbolizing the transfer of sin from the guilty party to the animal. The slaughter of the animal by the guilty party depicts payment for the sin. The penalty of death, the sin offering, may never be eaten. It is completely burned. No demographic is ignored. Poor people may offer birds as substitute instead of large, more expensive animals. The result is the same. The offer acknowledges guilt, and the replacement animal dies instead of the guilty person. Certain sins, including the defiling of sacred property, cheating, theft, fraud, require both a sacrificial offering and a restitution. And because broken people sin continually, the fire of the altar must never go out. Procedures for the sin offering. Leviticus 4, 1 through 35. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Give the following instructions to the people of Israel. This is how you are to deal with those who sin unintentionally, by doing anything that violates one of the Lord's commandments. If the high priest sins, bringing guilt upon the entire community, he must give a sin offering for the sin he has committed. He must present the Lord a young bull with no defects. He must bring the bull to the Lord at the entrance of the tabernacle. Lay his hands on the bull's head and slaughter it before the Lord. The high priest will then take some of the bull's blood into the tabernacle, dip his finger in the blood, and sprinkle it 7 times before the Lord in front of the inner curtain of the sanctuary. The priest will then put some of the blood on the horns of the altar for fragrant incense that stand in the Lord's presence inside the tabernacle. He will pour out the rest of the bull's blood at the base of the altar for burnt offering at the entrance of the tabernacle. Then the priest must remove all the fat of the bulls to be offered as a sin offering. This includes all the fat around the internal organs, the 2 kidneys, and the fat around them near the loins, and the long lobe of the liver. He must remove these along with kidneys, just as he does with cattle offered as a peace offering, and burn them on the altar of burnt offerings. But he must take whatever is left of the bull and its hide, meat, head, legs, internal organs, and dung, and carry it away to a place outside the camp that is ceremonially clean. The place where the ashes are dumped, there on the ash heap, he will burn it on a wood fire. If the entire Israelite community sins by violating one of the Lord's commandments, but people don't realize it, they are still guilty. When they become aware of their sin, the people must bring a young bull as an offering for their sin and present it before the tabernacle. The elders of the community must then lay their hands on the bull's head and slaughter it before the Lord. The high priest will then take some of the bull's blood into the tabernacle, dip the finger in the blood, and sprinkle it 7 times before the Lord in front of the inner curtain. He will then put some of the blood on the horn of the altar for fragrant incense that stands in the Lord's presence inside the tabernacle. He will pour out the rest of the blood at the base of the altar for burnt offerings at the entrance of the tabernacle. Then the priest must remove all the animal's fat and burn it on the altar, just as he does with the bull offered as a sin offering for the high priest. Through this process, the priest will purify the people, making them right with the Lord, and they will be forgiven. Then the priest must take what is left of the bull and carry it outside the camp and burn it there, just as it is done with the sin offering for the high priest. This offering is for the sin of the entire congregation of Israel. If one of Israel's leaders sins by violating one of the commandments of the Lord, his God, but doesn't realize that he is still guilty, when he becomes aware of his sin, he must bring as an offering a male goat with no defect. He must lay his hand on the goat's head and slaughter it at the place where the burnt offering is slaughtered. Before the Lord, this is an offering of sin. Then the priest will dip his finger in the blood of the sin offering and put it into the horn of the altar for the burnt offering. He will pour out the rest of the blood at the base of the altar. Then he must burn all the goat's fat on the altar, just as he does with the peace offering. Through this process, the priest will purify the leaders from his sin, making him right with the Lord, and he will be forgiven. If any of the common people sin by violating one of the Lord's commandments, but they don't realize it, they are still guilty. When they become aware of their sin, they must bring as an offering for their sin a female goat with no defects. They must lay hands on the head of the sin offering and slaughter it at the place where burnt offerings are slaughtered. Then the priest will dip his finger in the blood and put it on the horn of the altar for a burnt offering. He will pour out the rest of the blood at the base of the altar. Then he must remove all the goat's fat, just as he does with the fat of the peace offering. He will burn the fat on the altar, and it will be a pleasing aroma to the Lord. Through this process, the priest will purify the people, making them right with the Lord, and they will be forgiven. If the people bring a sheep as their sin offering, it must be a female with no defects. They must lay hands on the head of the sin offering and slaughter it at the place where burnt offerings are slaughtered. Then the priest will dip his finger in the blood of the sin offering and put it on the horn of the altar for a burnt offering. He will pour out the rest of the blood at the base of the altar. Then he must remove all the sheep's fat, just as he does with the fat of the sheep presented as a peace offering. He will burn the fat on the altar on top of the special gifts presented to the Lord. Through this process, the priest will purify the people from their sin, making them right with the Lord, and they will be forgiven. Sin requirements, a sin offering. Sin requires a sin offering. Leviticus 5:1-13. If you are called to testify about something you have seen or that you know about, it is sinful to refuse to testify, and you will be punished for your sin. Or suppose you unknowingly touch something that is ceremonially unclean, such as the carcass of an unclean animal. When you realize what you have done, you must admit your defilement and your guilt. This is true whether it is a wild animal, a domestic animal, or an animal that scurries along the ground. Or suppose you unknowingly touch something that makes a person unclean. Then you realize that you have done what you have done. You must admit your guilt. Or suppose you make a foolish vow of any kind, whether its purpose is for good or for bad. When you realize its foolishness, you must admit your guilt. When you become aware of your guilt in any way, these ways, you must confess your sin. Then you must bring to the Lord as the penalty for your sin a female from the flock, either a sheep or a goat. This is a sin offering with which the priest will purify you from your sin, making you right with the Lord. But if you cannot afford to bring a sheep, you may bring to the Lord 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons as a penalty for your sin. One of the birds will be for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. You must bring them to the priest, who will present the first bird as a sin offering. He will wring its neck, but without severing its head from the body. Then he will sprinkle some of the blood of the sin offering against the side of the altar, and the rest of the blood will be drained out at the base of the altar. This is an offering for sin. The priest will then prepare the second bird as a burnt offering, following all the procedures that have been prescribed. Through this process, the priest will purify you from your sin, making you right with the Lord, and you will be forgiven. If you cannot afford to bring 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, you may bring 2 quarts of choice flour for your sin offering. Since it is an offering for sin, you must not moisten it with olive oil or put any frankincense on it. Take the flour to the priest, who will scoop out a handful of the as a representation portion. He will burn it on the altar on top of the special gifts presented to the Lord. It is an offering for sin. Through this process, the priest will purify those who are guilty of any of these sins, making them right with the Lord, and they will be forgiven. The rest of the flour will belong to the priest, just as with the grain offering. Procedures for guilt offering. Leviticus 5:14 through 19. Then the Lord said to Moses, if one of you commit a sin by unintentional defiling the Lord's sacred property, you must bring a guilt offering to the Lord. The offering must be your own ram with no defects, or you may buy one of equal value with silver as measured by the weight of the sanctuary shekel. You must make restitutions for the sacred property you have harmed by paying for the loss, plus an additional 20% when you give the payment to the priest. He will purify you with the ram sacrificed as a guilt offering, making you right with the Lord, and you will be forgiven. Suppose you sin by violating one of the Lord's commandments. Even if you are unaware of what you have done, you are guilty and will be punished for your sin. For a guilt offering, you must bring to the priest your own ram with no defects, or you may buy one of the equal value. Through this process, the priest will purify you from the unintentional sin, making you right with the Lord, and you will be forgiven. This is a guilt offering for you have been guilty of an offense against the Lord. Sin requires a guilt offering. Leviticus 6:1 through 7. Then the Lord said to Moses, suppose one of you sins against your associate and is unfaithful to the Lord. Suppose you cheat in a deal involving a security deposit, or you steal or commit a fraud, or you find lost property and then lie about it, or you lie while swearing to tell the truth, or you commit any other such sin. If you have sinned in any of these ways, you are guilty. You must give back whatever you have stolen, or the money you took by extortion, or the security deposit, or the lost property you found, or anything obtained by swearing falsely. You must make restitutions by paying the full price plus an additional 20% to the person you have harmed. On the same day, you must represent a guilt offering as a guilt offering to the Lord. You must bring to the priest your own ram with no defects, or you may buy one of equal value. Through this process, the priest will purify you before the Lord, making you right with him, and you will be forgiven for any of these sins you have committed. Further instructions for the burnt offerings, Leviticus 6:8 through 13. Then the Lord said to Moses, give Aaron and his sons the following instructions regarding the burnt offerings. The burnt offerings must be left on top of the altar until the next morning, and the fire on the altar must be kept burning all night. In the morning, after the priest on duty has put on his official linen clothing and linen undergarments, he must clean out the ashes of the burnt offering and put them besides the altar. Then he must take off these garments, change back into his regular clothes, and carry the ashes outside the camp to a place that is ceremonially clean. Meanwhile, the fire on the altar must keep burning. It must never go out. Each morning the priest will add fresh wood to the fire and arrange the burnt offering on it. He will then burn the fat of the peace offering on it. Remember, the fire must be kept burning on the altar at all times. It must never go out. Further instructions for the grain offering, Leviticus 6:14 to 18. These are the instructions regarding the grain offering. Aaron's sons must present this offering to the Lord in front of the altar. The priest on duty will take from the grain offering a handful of the choice flour, moistened with olive oil, together with all the frankincense. He will burn this representative portion on the altar as a pleasing aroma to the Lord. Aaron and his sons may eat the rest of the flour, but it must be baked without yeast and eaten in a sacred place, without the courtyard of the tabernacle. Remember, it must never be prepared with yeast. I have given it to the priests as their share of their special gift presented to me. Like the sin offering and the guilt offering, it is most holy. Any of Aaron's male descendants may eat from the special gift presented to the Lord. This is their permanent right from generation to generation. Anyone or anything that touches this offering will become holy. Procedures for the ordinary offering. Leviticus 6:19-23. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Oh, the day Aaron his sons are anointed, they must present the Lord the standard grain offering of 2 quarts of choice flour, half to be offered in the morning and have to be offered in the evening. It must be carefully mixed with olive oil and cooked in griddle, then sliced. This grain offering and present it as a pleasing aroma to the Lord. In each generation, the high priest who succeeds Aaron must prepare the same offering. It must belong to the Lord and must be burnt up completely. This is a permanent law. All such grain offerings of the priest must be burnt up entirely. None of it may be eaten." Further instructions for the sin offering. Leviticus 6:24-30. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Give Aaron and his sons the following instructions regarding the sin offering. The animal given as an offering for sin is a most holy offering, and it must be slaughtered in the Lord's presence. The place where the burnt offering are slaughtered. The priests who offer the sacrifice as a sin offering must eat this portion in the sacred place within the courtyard of the tabernacle. Anyone or anything that touches the sacrificial meat will become holy. If any of the sacrificial blood spatters on a person's clothing, the soiled garments must be washed in a sacred place. If a clay pot is used to boil the sacrificial meat, it must be then broken. If a bronze pot is used, it must be then scoured and thoroughly rinsed with water. Any male from a priest family may eat from this offering. It is most holy, but the offering for sin may not be eaten. If its blood was brought into the tabernacle as an offering for purification in the holy place, it must be completely burnt with fire." All right. So that's day 48. So hopefully you guys are enjoying this. And with that being said, I will see y'all tomorrow.